to start our Madras Jefferson County Chamber Forum for our City of Madras candidates for mayor. I'm Joe Krunowitz. I'm the Executive Director for the Chamber for Madras and Jefferson County communities. And we welcome you here. This is one of our fun things that we get to do on a regular basis is candidate forums. Tonight we have 5 candidates for the mayor position. We have Bill Atherton, Brad Johnson, Mike Lepine, Travis Montgomery, and Austin Troop. Some people don't know this position is a non-paying position. It's all volunteer like the other positions on the council. Madras has about 7,000 residents and probably another 4,000 to 5,000 in the surrounding area that we do need to know who we want for a mayor. It takes from 10 to 20 and sometimes 30 hours a month depending what part of the year is. So it does take some commitment. Daytime meetings, evening meetings, ambassadorships, community events, and certainly our promotion of our area. So tonight's event format will start with each candidate's opening introductions, followed by a question and answer portion, and then we'll wrap it up with the closing comments. So real quickly, if you need restrooms, are right out the door and to the right. Please check your cell phones, make sure they're on a silent mode or meeting mode. We appreciate that. So we have tonight the most critical thing that our candidates need to know is that we have a yellow card and a red card.
During the speeches, there's like 3-minute open introductions. The questions have 90 seconds allocated to them to answer them. And at 15 seconds, a yellow card will be flashed up in front here. And Hillary Jacobson's one of our chamber board members. Thank you, Hillary. And then followed by that, when you get to the end of your 90 seconds, or 30 seconds, or your 3 minutes, red flag or red card goes up. And if you go past that too often, Hillary gets really upset. So she may jump up and down until that red flag gets you.
Steele, do you have audio?
So thanks to Central Oregon, Connect Central Oregon, Scott Breeze, and his assistant, Dante Kroner, along with Central Oregon 4 TV station, still have Keane with their recording this, as well as we'll be putting out on YouTube. And we appreciate you coming up here. I know it's a long way from Ben, but we feel this is important, and thanks for coming up and doing this for us. So we identified the first person to open their candidates' opening introductions. And I think we loaded this, but actually it worked out that Austin Troop's going to go first, and we'll just continue to go all the way across as we go every 3 minutes or whenever that time is. So Austin, let's start with you, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Austin Troop. I'm born and raised here in Madras. My parents both worked for the city and the county. My mom worked for the city for over 30 years, and my father was a former sheriff. It allowed me to see government from the inside out and to understand how the process works for everyone. And the last couple of years, as I've been thinking about my next step, I thought that the mayoral position would be perfect because as we come out of the pandemic, we need new leadership in this town. We need a new way of thinking about things, and we need a new way of getting them done. We need to listen to the citizens and realize that we all have different ways of living, and this melting pot is what makes us so great. The fact that we can be so different and still get along at the end of the day is what makes us Americans. 2 things can be true at once. And that's what I'm going to show you by listening to you and helping you get what you want done for the city of Madras. You know, I have experience as a precinct committee chairperson since 2020. I have worked on various campaigns, including a congressional campaign in 2020 for Spencer. Sorry, lost it going on. And I've worked just around on the city council in the past, so I have a brief experience there as well. Other than that, I just want to be the resource to help people understand how government works and how we can do our best to help you get what you want. I feel that a lot of people don't understand the process, but once it's been laid out for them, they tend to understand it and actually tend to appreciate it a lot more. So I want to bring a reasonability and moderation back to things. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Bill?
Bill Atherton. I live here in Madras with my wife, Gretchen, and I came here some 22 years ago, but I grew up in a town in Fishkill, New York, which is very much like Madras. It's a smaller community, manageable size, and farmland around it, very scenic, and this community was fabulous. And all the kids walked to school, most of them. It was like a large extended family. We even used Main Street as a dividing line for capture the flag game. It was fabulous. And we grew up. I had to go on the way to college, came out to the West. And even at that time, before I left Fishkill, I had a feeling that the forces was setting up, but eventually changed it, and changed it in ways that people were extraordinarily unhappy. I came out to college in the West Coast, planned to become a physician, but through some medical mistakes, that was no longer a possibility. And of all things, I became involved in public policy and helped a fellow get elected to Congress, went back east to D.C., where we did some pretty notable things. But I couldn't stand Washington, really. And came back, had to finish college because I was flat broke. I managed to get out and get away from college because I was invited to go to Sacramento, where I served as a staff for a group called the Science and Technology Advisory Council, which was a fabulous 8 years there. But the most important thing that I did was my involvement in Sacramento, where I wanted to fix up the old Victorian house, which I did, and I found out that the city really wanted to knock those houses down. They zoned the land for high-density apartments. And as one city councilor explained to me, the inebriated condition, he said, you need to knock those houses down, put up apartments, make money like the rest of us. Heck, if you fix those places up with all of these, and he used some derogatory and unpleasant names, which I won't use in public, where are they going to go? Go to land court, McKinley Court, out for cover and protect the neighborhoods. And that introduced me to a process that I think we're having a little trouble with what's that? With the marker up there. I need to stop? Yeah. All right, so, all right. So anyway, long story short, now I'm here.
Thank you. If elected mayor, some of the places that... Thank you. If elected mayor, some of the places that I would like to see the city of Madras focusing on, that I would put my energy towards, is first building relationships, making sure that relationships at all levels are improving and just part of the way we do business. Making sure that council and mayor, council and staff, council and council relationships, working with the nonprofits, making sure those relationships are good, making sure the relationships with business owners, our underserved communities, all of those relationships that you could think of. Intentionally working on them to make sure that having good relationships is just part of how we do business. Second thing is preparing for growth, making sure that we are ready for the growth that is coming, because if we believe Portland State University Population Resource Center, we know that Madras is going to more than double its size continue as council and staff have been working on. One of the things I think that we need to do is to find our shared identity. I think many of us have an individual idea of what Madras is, and most of us think it's a pretty great place to be. But do we have an agreed upon shared identity that we can explain? This is what Madras is. And I think we need to develop that. And part of that is developing a vibrant business community to make sure that we have a strong identity in our downtown. And then finally making sure that we engage in strategic thinking so that when we think about things, we're doing good risk-benefit analysis on the individual decisions, but also on those long-term decisions to make sure that today's decision matches up well with the decisions we made 30, 60, 90 days ago, the decisions we made 5 years ago, and the decisions we'll make 5 years from now. That kind of strategic thinking has to be intentional. Who am I and why do I think that you can do those? I can help you do those things. I'm a United States Army veteran who spent the majority of my adult life in service to the public. I spent 25 years in local government, ending my career as chief of police and assistant city manager in the city of Astoria. I spent 3 years now teaching here at 509J schools, teaching social studies most recently, and love this community in a deep and meaningful way. And my education background, I have a bachelor's in easy for me to say, in management, communication, and leadership. I have a master's in public administration and a master's in education. And I think those, that combination of things will help me to be a leader in this community.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And Travis?
Hi, I'm Travis Montgomery. Nice to meet everybody here today. First, I want to say thank you to the Chamber for holding this event for us. And then secondly, to all of you that are out there in the audience, it's incredibly important to me and part of my platform, but it's incredibly important that you are all here and engaged and you want to be a part of your local town and get involved with, in this case, the mayorship, but even with the council members. So thank you all for coming and giving us an audience to yak at for a while. I've lived here in Madras now for, I guess it's been probably around 17 years. I'm a local business owner here. I own Farmers Insurance downtown. I've got experience, I can't even begin to tell you how many jobs I've had in my life and all of those different types of jobs. Most of my adult life I've spent in the sales force, so whether it be in sales, direct sales, indirect sales, customers, all the way through managing a store that did, I don't know, probably somewhere in the $12, $13 million range. So, dealing with larger budgets, obviously not to the size that a city deals with, but I do have a lot of experience there, and most importantly, I've got a lot of experience just dealing with people. And it doesn't seem to matter what it is you do. Everything is a people business, and that is something that I've always been very, very good at in my life. And I want to bring that into the city government as well. I want to be able to be very transparent, be open to all of the citizens, regardless of any barriers that may be. I want to try to break down those barriers and make it to where people they feel comfortable approaching us, so that as a council, as leadership in the city, whether it's the city doing it or us just kind of helping to point them in the right direction, maybe to get them the answers and the help and whatever it is that they're looking for. So I look forward to earning your guys' vote tonight.
Thank you, Travis. Michael Keane.
Good evening, I'm Michael Keane. I am not from here. I grew up and I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I grew up very poor. And so when I graduated high school, I was really impressed I was able to graduate. I chose to join the Marine Corps. I served in the Marine Corps and then later in the Naval Reserve. Proud to do that, and then to the opportunity from the Child Bill and others to go to school and become a paramedic. I've been in uniform service all my life, all my adult life. I moved to Madras in 1989, went stir crazy because it was such a small town, and I moved to the valley where I worked for 8 years and was very happy to come back. So I've been here now for 20 years. This year has been 20 years, and I worked with Jefferson County EMS District for all that time. And all that time I was here before. I served your community as a paramedic, and during this time I served as a training officer, then assistant chief, and then finally as chief in 2017. And during that time, our agency struggled because although a special district, we were a non-taxing district. And the first month as chief, we had to take money out of savings to make payroll. That was the only time we had to do that. And by time then before the merge, we had over $1 million in reserves. So learning how to do better billing, better reporting, all that really kind of put us together. And I was able to oversee with Chief Blake back there the successful merge of our agency with the fire department. I've served this county or the city before as a city councilor from 2003 to 2007, and I quit only because I was going back to school. While going to work full time, I attended school at CUCC, then the U of O. The last year they had a campus here, and then my senior year I had to travel twice a week to Eugene, which was interesting because I get up at 3 in the morning to get to class on time at 8 on Tuesday and do the same thing on Thursday, and then I'd camp out in a parking garage at the hospital so I can make it to lab Friday morning. But great things came out of that. I obtained my degree in anthropology with a minor in history, which gave me a very deep desire and appreciation for culture, and also taught me that if you want something bad enough, you will find ways to make it happen. I serve on multiple state committees, and that is, we only meet quarterly, so it's not like I'm always gone, but it has helped me cast a big networking availability. So if there's some kind of issues or something that I need, it gives me a big round of people that I can get help from. And for an example, there was a neighboring agency that was struggling with personnel, and when we were not, it was going to affect us greatly, so I managed to get state resources to come in and bring FEMA there. That helped a lot. My time off, I am well-rounded. I am an amateur bagpiper, and I play in a Highland pipe and drum band, and I'm such a great bagpiper, I play the bass drum. But I'm getting better. I can now play 4 songs. I'm happy to be here with these fine gentlemen and get some work done.
Thank you. Appreciate the introductions. So we are at the question and answer section, and we've cultivated written questions from the community prior to the event, and then also from the panelists. I asked each one of them, do you have 2 questions you'd like to answer, and do you have 2 questions you'd like to ask any of your competitors in the mayor's position? And then tonight we cultivated questions from the audience here in person. So we have 3 bowls, and we'll pull questions out of each one of them. So like I mentioned before, we'll ask a question. You have 90 seconds to respond to it. We'll start with Bill Atherton first. We'll go down to Mike and come back to Austin. Once we get done with that round, if someone would like to rebut the conversation, put in your thoughts, or put in additional information that may be of value to your constituents, you have 30 seconds to do that. And once again, when you get to 15 seconds, the yellow sheet goes up, as well as you can watch it up on the monitor put on by Connect Central Oregon, and then the red card goes up when your time is up. So let's, I guess we better get started, Bill. I'm going to pull from the smallest number of questions, and this is from the in-person folks. Over the years, both the Jefferson County and the City of Madras have been short-staffed due to budgets and or challenges in recruitment and retention of staff. Do you support do you support combining the 2 entities together as a complete service or as a contract? So the question is, do you support combining the City of Madras Police Department and the Sheriff's Department together or by contract. So Bill, you have 90 seconds.
You know, Joe, I have to explain. Several weeks ago, I went to the doctor, and I've used hearing aids for some 40 years. And I went to the doctor, and he said, your hearing aids are not going to work for you anymore. You're going to have to get a cochlear implant. But this is very, very difficult for me to hear, Joe, and I couldn't pick up anything of what you said, really. It's very difficult in this, and I'm not the only person in this community that has hearing difficulty, but that's kind of a long question.
So Bill, read that last sentence right there.
Well, that's a pretty detailed question about contracts and so forth. What they're trying to get to is, are there benefits or barriers related to combining the law enforcement of the city and the county, the sheriff and the city, right? All right. One of the biggest problems we have in having livable communities is that counties have no business being in the city business. They do this all across the country. Counties do provide, they allow housing. You'll see it here in Madras. Planners call it the executive housing, and it's out in the county. They drive through our neighborhoods. We can't drive through theirs, kind of thing. Our kids have to walk to school. Theirs get the bus. It's a big problem, and sheriffs were never intended to be used here in an urban setting. But this problem needs to be addressed, and one of the key issues is that some counties, like Washington County back in the 90s, actually did a resolution that said they were going to be out of the city business. They were going to stop it, and they were going to preserve the farmland and so forth. And we could have and encourage in strong terms that the county here do the same thing, and that way keep our law enforcement resources where they ought to be used.
Thank you, Bill. Brad?
Well, 90 seconds to solve decades worth of problems. What could go wrong here? I think the details matter on this, right? There are reasons to do mergers or combining metro departments. I don't think small agencies generally benefit from it. I think that where you're not going to save money, you're not going to get better service necessarily, but you may see some efficiencies. The problem is what you lose. The disposition of people who work in rural areas, like very rural areas, and people who work in municipalities, in my experience, has been very different. Is that bad? No, it's different. The beautiful thing with the city of Madras having its own police department and Jefferson County having its own police department is that we get to have the police department we want. We get to select officers that fit our priorities and our model of what we want a police officer to be. The county gets to do the same. If we were to do something together, keeping our own identity becomes difficult. Sharing an identity becomes maybe even more difficult. Are there ways to solve the problems? There are. Recruiting is a difficult thing. Recruiting police officers in this environment is a very difficult thing. Are we going to have to do it better? Yes, we will, and I think we can.
As far as combining a sheriff's department specifically with the police department, there's lots of ways that it could go right, lots of ways that it could go bad. Brad did talk about some of those. I'll expand on a little bit about what he was talking about. When you start talking about identity of city versus county, one of the number one things you run into in a police department atmosphere is in a city, in a police department, you work for an appointed official. You have a police chief that was, chosen by job interview and so on, where a county sheriff and subsequently their deputies, that sheriff is an elected position. So the approach to law enforcement and the approach to selection of personnel, the approach to how they deal with the community is very, very, very different. Combining the two teams as it would be here, may solve some short-time problems, but then you start running into issues with whether or not the sheriff's department itself would be, have enough manpower. You'd like to think that all of the city police officers would just transfer to the county, but there's too many identity things there, just a difference in how they do things. So I would be opposed to combining the two.
Thank you. Mike Lapine.
I kind of have mixed feelings on this altogether. I know right now, or I believe right now, our police department's in crisis mode. If anybody know, our police chief right now is on leave, and we have a temporary person in that position. So, and I believe our police department right now is kind of behind the times on some of the technology and things that are important to make them work effectively on the street. So if they were to combine with the sheriff's office, there's things already in play that could benefit, and we can get to speed even faster. But the sheriff's office itself isn't totally up to par. I know they have their one-person shy of being fully staffed on patrol, but the corrections is not. So it's not that the sheriff's office doesn't have their problems as well, but what I am concerned about is if we do that, if you contract that out, then it's very difficult to restart up all over again if you're not happy with the product you're getting from the sheriff's office. But it is done in a lot of other places. For example, Sisters, right? They're contracting with the Shoes County, and they provide a service there, and they even have their name Sisters on the side of their patrol car there, and I'm sure they provide a great service. If we need to fix what we have here in the police department, we need to start from the top and make sure we have somebody who's good in that place and that can bring in good, effective people. It's not like, okay, you want to live here, you don't want to live here. It's a small community in law enforcement, just like it is in fire. If they know they have a great committee, a great leadership, and all that's going to be supportive, they will come, they will work.
Thank you, Mike. Austin.
Yes, at the moment, I do not support combining the city and the county police. I think there's a lot of factors involved in doing that successfully. As others have mentioned, the sheriff is an elected position, and the chief of police is appointed. So that already is a big difference, and you would have all the police from that point on. I mean, would they be appointed? Would they be deputized in? That needs to be made clear. Other than that, no, I don't see how it would work for our community and smaller ones like Sisters. Yeah, it makes sense because it's a much smaller community. They don't have a larger area like Madras to worry about. In Madras, it makes sense to have city police so they can focus on the issues within Madras, domestic violence issues, whatever it may be, and the county can focus on their issues. So I don't support it right now. However, I am open to hearing suggestions about it in the future. I don't want to close out any one issue and just say that's it. So that's just my current opinion. Thank you.
Okay, well, we have everyone's answered. Is there anybody who would like to have a rebuttal or continuation of your comments? Brad.
The one thing I'd like to make very clear is that I don't want my comments or any of my fellow candidates' comments to say that the Madras Police Department and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office are not working together very well all the time. They are professionals and they are doing their job in very difficult times. The second thing is that as I listened to our comments, I started thinking that this is not an either-or question, possibly. Maybe there is some model, and I don't know of the model, but maybe there's some model where we can do some kind of a hybrid system where for a period of time or for a particular purpose we do share tasks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Like I mentioned before, I have written questions that we cultivated prior to this event as well as from the candidates. Each candidate has the questions that's in these two bowls. I do that for two reasons. One is it's easier to read it sometimes and try to listen to me speak, as well as this is not a gotcha moment. This is, we want to get your information. We want you to feel comfortable as a candidate because we do value your input, and they received this about 10 minutes before 6, so it's not like they could go back to the city council or Gus to get the information. So with that, I just pulled out a question from the candidates list, and this is question M as in Mary. So we'll start with Brad. If you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
There are a couple things I'd want to find out. Not all grants are created equally. Some grants come with strings that are so difficult to manage that the $1 million may not be worth our time. And I know that's hard to hear and that it's hard to imagine, but if the $1 million comes with a string that takes the city in a direction that we don't want to go, the $1 million is not worth it. So first, making sure that the purpose of the grant aligns with the things that we want to do as a city. The second is I have no business spending $1 million of the taxpayers' money. The first thing I'd want to do is gather the input from my council and the people in the community to figure it out. My guess is currently we'd be talking about homelessness, we'd be talking about housing, or some of those other issues that are on the forefront, but I would not be comfortable making that decision on my own.
Travis.
Well, Brad brings up a lot of good points about, all grants not being equal, strings attached, so on and so forth. If we just kind of set that aside and just say that, hey, at the end of the year, we have an extra $1 million to spend, how are we going to spend it? If we make today that day, there's lots of worthy causes to look at. Homelessness, the houseless, the ability to find affordable housing. All of those things are good. I think probably the biggest thing that the city faces right now is somewhat of what we just talked about a little bit with the police department. I believe it was Mike that said that the police department's in crisis mode, and that is absolutely true. I think that there's some things that $1 million could go a long way to help solving. A lot of that being in recruiting and helping to get good officers to want to come to Madras instead of trying to go to one of the bigger cities to our south and make a lot more money, but have to live in a big city. So I would probably say that the $1 million would have to be spent mostly in that area to try and recruit and get our police department, so our public safety system here would be back and ready to go to work for the people.
Mike Levine.
I really like what Travis and Brad had to say about this. In my line of work, when you deal with grants, you have to be careful about what those strings are on there. But if this was no string attached and Santa Claus just left us a big fat gift on there, then I'm really in favor of helping our law enforcement and trying to get that squared away. But if we have some frivolous cash, there's some roads in our community that have not been paved in forever. It'd be nice to get them paved. Even our bike path or walking path, it seems really nice. There's some areas there that can really be used for improvement. And then people who choose to camp on that, maybe we can put some other resources towards rescue missions or something like that. So leave the paths alone or that sort of thing so we can enjoy those again. But be my idea.
Austin?
Yes, if I had $1 million grant to do with whatever I wanted, no strings attached, I would start a pilot project for affordable housing. I believe that is an issue that is going to help fix the other issues in the long term. When we focus on housing and a place for people to sleep at night, they can start to worry about the other things in their lives. I think that is the most important issue, and if I would definitely bring it open to other people in the public to come to me and let me know what they want as well. But this research that I've seen shows that affordable housing will lead to better outcomes in the long term, and I would love to use that money for that. Thank you.
Bill Atherton?
Thank you. When I was considering to be a candidate, I went out and talked to many, many people in the community and had to get the nominating papers. And three big issues jumped out from everyone, all the people I talked to. Number one was traffic. Number two was population growth and the effect on livability. And the third was having a voice at City Hall and feeling that they were respected. But this generated a lot of talk about a truck bypass around Madras. And many people don't know that on I-5, the bridges there were low bidder bridges. And for years we had to look at how to replace those. And when those go to replace, there's going to be truck traffic through Madras like you won't believe. Now that's been on the books. People have been talking about it since 2006 when I first was involved in it, on a truck bypass. But I'd spend $1 million on the initial analysis. And for doing that, the original alignment was up on using Culver Highway, but that's one way to take the downtown, have it be more livable and friendly.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. We had a little over 45 questions sent to us or in our kitty, and we narrowed it down to 32 because we did have some duplicates. So we'll start with Travis, and this is number 11 is the question. As mayor, you will be representing the city for the next 2 years, most likely 24 hours a day at times. Have you ever posted anything on social media that would represent the city or the mayor's position in a negative light?
Well, as a general rule of thumb, I kind of abhor social media in general. I do have a Facebook account that I look at every so often, if you count every couple of months. So honestly, can't remember the last thing I posted on there. It was probably some funny meme about, Calvin and Hobbes. And, well, you guys know the rest of the joke. So as far as if I've ever posted anything on social media that I think, no, I really don't think I have. Again, I don't even look at my own social media to see what I've posted in the past, so, I guess maybe there would be something in there that, somebody somewhere would take offense to, but, understanding that as the mayor, I am, a representative of the city, no matter where I go. I take that very, very seriously, and obviously my social media posts and, subsequently the posts of my closest friends and family, the people that are within my circle that, would help guide my day-to-day life. I would obviously have that same conversation with them because as an extension, they represent me, just as the way I represent the city. So I don't believe there's anything on there now. But would definitely be a lot more careful about anything that might possibly come up in the future for those types of things.
Mike Lapine.
That's a great question. I'm actually, I love posting goofy, funny things. I hate posting drama or serious things, and sometimes I'll double check myself. So what do you think, babe? Should I post this or not? And my wife would say, if you have to ask. So, okay, so I won't post that. But I'm also, besides this, I'm also representing my agency. I've been in high profile just as a chief from an EMS and now the deputy chief of a fire agency. And we have policies over that kind of police me, make sure that I don't post anything that I'm going to get spanked for later. And I don't know if my chief has ever looked at, no, I know he's looked at my Facebook page, but he hasn't counseled me anything I posted so far. So I think I'm doing okay.
Austin Troop.
Yes, thank you. So You know, I'm happy to share my opinion on social media in the past, and that's something I've always done. I never shy away from that. I tell people how I feel, and I think during the pandemic, I learned that it really goes beyond just my own feelings on that, because everyone was suffering. We were all being shorthanded during that time, and if anything, I share my opinion, and if someone didn't like to see my opinion at the time, it's not like I was disrespecting them, but they were the ones who were choosing to seek that out and view it. As a public official, that's much different. You have the responsibility to not do that. And I promise to be responsible in that sense. I am not even using social media right now to campaign because I just don't want to open it up to negativity. I don't want to give people the opportunity to come onto my platform and just be negative with me. Anyone can do that. It's not impressive. Instead, I want to build a platform where we can work together. And I think social media is not the way you do that. It's not at all. We have to look at more than just social media. How are they working in all aspects of their life? Is that person just being good on social media but bad everywhere else? Are they just putting up a show? You know, those are questions we need to ask. Thank you.
Bill Atherton?
Have I ever posted anything on social media that would put the city in a negative light? No. My wife and I, we have a farm outside of Gateway where we have been trying to, and have tried to create a youth education program for conservation and agriculture. And I work at that every day. And there's no way to be on social media. I'm too busy to be on social media. And I'd much rather keep myself busy doing good things that make me happy and serve primarily children of the community. So I'm not interested in being on social media.
Brad Johnston?
Social media has a great value and a place for government agencies. I have been a public employee longer than there has been social media. And so I've always been very conscious of what I'm posting and how I'm posting. And I would say that I was the person that started the Astoria Police Department's Facebook page back in, I don't know, far too long ago. And we built that as a community that got to about, the city of Astoria has 10,000 citizens. We had about 30,000 people following our Facebook page. And we built it as a community that stayed positive. It was an amazing thing. When negativity showed up on the Astoria Astoria Police Department's Facebook page, the community would self-censor it. And it was amazing. So I think that, you know, we focus on the toxicity of social media, but it has this real true value. Would I post anything that would be offensive to my community? I have not, and I will not. I believe that it has a place and that we can use it as a positive tool, and that if we don't do that, we're missing opportunity to build virtual community.
Thank you, gentlemen. So this is we're at a point where you can have a rebuttal or a continuation of your comments. Seeing none, let's go back to our questions from the audience. You know what? Austin, why don't you pull a question out? Thank you. Once again, what is your thoughts on consolidating the Madras Police Department with the Jefferson County? See if you can do it another time. Thank you. For over 2 years, Jefferson County and Madras have not funded an economic development position. We currently have no lumberyard and have seen 2 of our 3 pharmacies close. What would you do if elected to boost our retail sector and support job creation? And we'll start with Mike Lapine.
So Mike,
Oh,
this
I'm
is
sorry.
from our audience from here, so there's not a letter or a number. I can repeat the question.
Yes, please.
For over 2 years, Jefferson County and Madras have not funded an economic development position. We currently have no lumber yard and have seen 2 of our 3 pharmacies close. What would you do if elected to boost our retail sector and support job creation?
Ooh, that was kind of personal for us because my wife is a pharmacy tech and just got hired on at the new Mosaic Pharmacy that I'm sure some of you are familiar with now. And the job that started off as the dream job has become crazy as they've been taking on all these new customers from Hometown Drugs and also from Weimar. You know, it seems like in the past we've seen some businesses that tried to come here that just kind of filtered and went somewhere else. And Travis and I were actually talking about, ooh, we let that one get by. I think there needs to be a concerted effort or community effort in looking at what's coming in, what wants to come in, and try to recruit those that come in. That's going to really benefit our community and as a whole, as well as that economically. This is part of, it's really interesting because when I talk about growth to some of the population, there's actually quite a mixed, diverse belief on what we should see in here for businesses. There's a lot of people here who want to see a box store come in here because it's hard to find something, you know, like if you want to buy some clothing or shoes or like that, it's really hard to find that kind of selection you want to find in here. But there's others that want to still maintain that small town feel, and I think it's possible to do both to help improve and attract smaller businesses that come in here. But eventually, as we grow, we're going to have to see some of the bigger stores come in.
Austin.
Yeah, the issue with the pharmacy has been a big one. You know, it's crazy how we got the new one, but then a couple more closed, and all of a sudden that one's being overrun with all the new patients. And it makes sense. It's from the pandemic, and it's unfortunate. And I think one way that we can really help encourage new businesses to come in is to try and reduce the fees, for one, that are barriers for them. You know, a lot of them just don't want to afford all the fees that are put on them and all the taxes, and we've got to try and address that. You know, I've heard from others that sometimes the city is closed to like bringing in outside, like people from the outside to help, and I don't think that should be a problem if those people can do good work that is a benefit to our community and will help make a long-term commitment to us. You know, we don't want to be left high and dry because we lose a pharmacy and have to drive all the way to like Redmond or something, or Bend. I wouldn't want to do that. So as long as we can make sure that we have those things in there, one way to do that is to reduce the fees and the taxes for them and to reduce the barriers while also rewarding the businesses that are already here and have stuck around the area, even through the hard times, especially through the hard times. Thank you.
Bill.
I think the real question is, what is the role of city government in the job creation? And I know one thing, it's not to get involved with the county and do massive subsidy projects to build a brewery in a county building that they should have just put up for sale instead of offering massive subsidies like that could total over $1 million to have a brewery in a building that is perfectly suitable for needs that the community can decide what ought to be there. They should have just put it up for sale and try to get the best market price for it. But one of the other critical issues of having, well, generally speaking, the role of the city is to have a good place where the roads work, the water system works, where the police department is well funded and serves the people. You know, people know what to do on how to start their businesses, but having the traffic go through this city of truck after truck is detrimental to the city, not a benefit.
Brad.
I believe one of the roles that the city can play is creating that environment for businesses to thrive. How do we do that? One of the things that we can do is using things that the city owns to attract businesses in those places that the city owns them. It's one of the ways that we work with the Madras Development Commission to incentivize people. We use government funds to help find places and get them ready for businesses to come to our community. I think that's one of the big levers that the city has that they can pull to boost businesses. The other thing that we can do is create good inventories of available retail space. It's one of the things that I'm familiar with that a downtown association did in other communities where they knew and had an inventory. If anybody was looking to come to town with any business, you could go to the downtown association, and they worked with the city to host the information, but it was very transparent. These sites are available for these kinds of businesses, and it helps to build businesses if you don't have to build something from the ground up and you can already go into some place that's available.
Travis?
Yeah, you know, this is always kind of one of those sticky questions because you, as a small government type of guy, you don't necessarily want the government to get involved in, you know, private business. However, there is a place for it, and as some of the candidates have recognized, while it's not necessarily the city's responsibility, we do have a responsibility to the citizens, and if those are the types of things that they want us to do, then we can certainly try and do that. The Madras Development Commission has dollars available. We have positions within the city already. I know that we're a little shorthanded within the city to help with things like permitting and you know, the costs of those things, but using those dollars wisely to try and attract business, it does, one, create job growth, and two, it improves our living conditions here in Madras, and that's what the city needs to focus on. We have those dollars available. There's, you know, all kinds of, you know, you use that big scary word grant money and things like that from both state and federal levels to even assist with that, whether it's, you know, helping them purchase a building, giving them some, you know, tax write-offs for X amount of years, things like that. That's the type of stuff where the city can help and hopefully draw in those the types of retailers that our constituents are looking for, you know, whether it be retail or you know, Amazon warehouse.
Mike? We started off with you, didn't we, Mike? Sorry about that. I think you tracked this. So we're at the point where if you have 30 seconds to add additional comment or rebuttal. Brad?
The one thing I think we all missed here too is that we're not in this work alone. Tonight we're hosted here by the Chamber, who does some of this work as well, and that's an important partner. And the other important partner that we're not talking about is COIC, the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. They are working on this for us as well. So while we may not be working on it in our silo, our community is working on it together.
Any other party? Okay. Bill, if you'd pull a question out for me. So this is question E, as an elephant. Given the time commitment that is required to be mayor, will you be in the position to make meetings such as committee meetings, League of Oregon Cities, and meet other local city leaders while you have a full-time employment during business hours? Would your employer support your mayor responsibilities during business hours, or would you be required to use personal time off? And Austin, you're the first in line.
Thank you. Yes. I am completely ready for the commitment that this is going to require. I have the time available. I know it's required of me, and I have put that time aside. There is no issue with my employment on that end, and I can schedule around it at any time. So I am not worried about that, and that is one of the reasons that was one of the things I made sure I could say before I started running, is that I was going to have the time to do this, and that I will be at all the meetings, and I'll be there to listen to you, the citizens, and what you want done. So yes, I am not worried at all about that commitment.
Bill?
I could stay pretty busy at my farm every day, but there's no problem in providing the timer equipment to serve with the city. And in terms of going to the League of Oregon Cities, boy, oh boy, do I ever want to go there. Believe me, I have 2 resolutions here that I drafted this was almost 30 years ago, on the 20-year land supply law and the fact that cities are not allowed to, also that they're not allowed to collect the full costs of growth. This is the most critical issue in being able to plan our communities and have a livable city. The original state land use law was a wonderful thing, and it was focused on having farmers and ranchers live on the farms and ranches. People live in town would live in town, and who have jobs in town would live in town, and we'd have efficient transportation linkages between. But that law has been changed. It started in 1995 when they changed the urban growth boundary process to force communities to accommodate growth that maybe they didn't want or need, and force them to accommodate it and not allow them to collect impact fees to pay for it.
Thank you. Brad?
This is a challenge for me. I am employed full-time as a teacher. I work during the day, and being a teacher is a difficult thing to be flexible. However, the number of daytime meetings are not substantial, and I don't serve alone. I serve with a council. That the mayor is the only person that goes to, I mean, we hear our current mayor asking for volunteers to attend the Central Oregon Council of Governments together to see if somebody else can sit in that for a while. The mayor's meeting will be the one thing that is impossible for me to make at this point. But as Calvin Coolidge once said, if there's 12 problems coming down the road, 9 of them won't get to you. And I haven't asked for permission yet, so I don't know the answer. It could be there is some way to do it, but I don't know. As when it comes to things like League of Oregon Cities, I can't make that one. That's next week, I think, if I remember right, and soon. And that one won't be one I can go to, but I also know that in August we have the Mayor's Association meeting and the CIS conference, and I certainly can make those conferences, so it's a balance.
Travis?
Yeah, as far as having the available time to, be able to commit, the question outlines just a couple of things on here. Three examples. I think there's probably a lot more, and I think that there's a lot more potential out there for little things, especially when you start talking about collaborative efforts with not only the departments within our city and county, but with our neighboring cities as well, and to work with those people. As far as having the time, I don't want to say I have all the time in the world, because I keep myself pretty well busy until 7, 8 o'clock at night just about every day. But I am aware of what this volunteer position would bring, and I have structured my own business to where I have a great employee that can pretty much be me when I'm not there. So obviously I don't have to worry about I give myself permission since I'm my own boss, so I'll be able to make it to just about anything that comes up.
Mike?
In my career, I've learned that time management is really, truly an art form. But yes, when I first started thinking about taking on this position, I talked to the current mayor, I talked to a past mayor, I talked to my wife, and then finally I talked to my chief. And if I didn't have the support of all 4 on that, then I probably would have bowed out of this. But no, my schedule is actually pretty flexible. Since I don't currently work on a bus, I sit in an office right now, so yeah, generally my schedule is pretty flexible, so this is not going to be an issue.
Okay, any other rebuttal or further presentation? Okay. This way it keeps everybody thinking I'm pretty honest. Very good, Brad. So this is number 4, and this is from our community questions that we've cultivated. What's the number 1 challenge facing the next mayor when it comes to management of the department and working with the police, city council, or county commissioners? And this is number 4. So, Bill, you're first.
What's the number 1 challenge facing the mayor comes to the management of the department, working with the police, city council? Well, I really don't know. I've never had a problem in my role in the past when I was a city councilor or metro councilor, and being able to work with the staff and so forth. But I think one of the biggest problems that the citizens brought to my attention was their feeling that they weren't being heard at City Hall. And I think if we can more better improve the feeling in this community that they're not locked out, that they're listened to, that they're respected, and that we carry on our public processes that are transparent, and that we listen to them and bring in more of the citizens of this community into the voice. That would be our best approach to that. And we're not going to deal with this challenge, especially of the growth situation, unless we all pull together on this thing. This is not a one-man show. This is something everybody is going to have to participate in. And I have a number of plans, ways to do that, primarily with visioning and visual preference survey process.
Thank you. Brad?
I just spent 41 minutes today talking to my students about parsing questions they answer on a test. And I find this question to be interesting because I'm not sure what the department is. But since the only department they mentioned was police, and then went on to city council or county commission, I'm going to assume that is what we're talking about. And I think one of the things that is a challenge right now is leadership in our police department. Finding good, stable leadership going forward, and ensuring that we are looking at the future there and managing our relationships. When it comes to working with council and the county commissioners, ensuring that we have respect at all levels of that relationship, and that we strengthen those relationships in times of peace, so that when we have little pinches in our relationships, we have that that human capital there that we can draw on, so we have a good relational capacity with those groups of people. And I think I'll leave it there.
Travis?
Yeah, I had said the words before, I'll say them again. Everything is a people business. Everything. Doesn't matter what it is. As a new mayor, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges is getting around to speak to and start to build those relationships with not only the heads of, whatever department it is, public works, police, even as the question asked with county commissioners. I think that that's something that I've always been very, very good at. Building those alliances, the relationships, the friendships, even with the other departments that we are going to have to help steer the ship of. These are all individual parts of a bigger ship, and that's kind of the mayor's duty is to help steer that ship, and it starts with the people. Obviously, there's getting people in the right positions. We've mention the police department. I think everybody's pretty aware at this point. The police department's a big priority, getting the right people in place there. But it's more than that. It's just building the relationships with everybody, whether it's from the constituent level and just our voters, but also with the individual leaders of the departments that are already established, and even their people that work under them.
Mike.
I'm just going to sound like I'm repeating a lot of stuff here, because I agree. The number one right now is the police department in their crisis mode. As Brad said, it needs to start at the top with good leadership. You need to bring something in that can cast a wide net and they see things from a big view. From there, they can set standards and policies so they can improve that agency. And it's not that, as Brad says, it's not that we don't have good people right now. I know every one of them officers and every one of those deputies, and they're great people, and they work very well together. I think that was demonstrated during the shooting, during the fairgrounds time. That time they worked in concert very well together, and they kept a bad situation from becoming even worse. But still, they are tired, they're overworked, and because there's so few right now, and that needs to be stabilized. When we're talking about for city council and county commissioners, I know sometimes there's a rub between the county commission and the city council. And I think as a mayor representing the city, that person needs to be a strong individual who can stand up for that city and at the same time make good partnerships with the county.
Austin.
So as other candidates have pointed out, one of the biggest issues right now is with the police department. And we need to get a replacement permanent chief in there, which is something that it's kind of boggled me. I've never really heard of that before, and I guess it's something they started doing recently where they have temporary chiefs come in, and that's fine, but we need to find a permanent replacement so we figure something out soon. As far as the transparency with the city council and the county commissioners and the county, there is a lot of tension between them, and I think it comes down to figuring out the priorities of the county versus the priorities of the city and how we can make that work for everybody. I mean, there's many issues out there, but most of all, we just have to start learning to get along with one another, even if we're not the same. And with the city council, that's what I'm hoping to do. Thank you.
Okay, I think we got everyone covered on this question. Any rebuttal or any additional comments? Did we get you, Bill? Okay, great. Okay, any other further conversation? Okay. So this is coming from our folks here who've written these questions out in person. Just a sec. This is another question in regards to the most important issue facing the city, and I think we've covered that. Thank you. So the question is, how do you intend on working together with the council, the staff, and police in a productive manner? And Travis? Or Brad, excuse me.
Well, I think we're sounding a little bit like broken records up here. It's a people business, and the relationships matter, and focusing on those relationships is our first priority. Funding comes next, relationships comes first. Because if we can't get along and we just start throwing dollars at our problems, we are going to have bigger problems. So it's relationships, people. We need to build our relational capacity in advance and be ready for those moments when our relationships take little pinches. I'll stop there, and because it's driving me crazy, I do have to say to the man in the back row, go Pack, go.
Travis.
Yeah, I mean, Brad pretty well said it. Broken record thing here. Everything is about people. If I were to be elected, That's a privilege that I would take very, very, very seriously, and subsequently then I would put in the time to get around and talk to the heads of every department. That's the place to start. Talk about their needs, talk about what it is that how I can help them. Is there something that they need brought to the council that they're not really quite sure how to bring to the council? Things like that. We've talked a lot about, Facebook and social media and how you're going to present yourself. And, all of these things are kind of intertwined the way I see it. And, I think that it's just important that we make friends, not enemies. Brad had mentioned something, we just throw money at it. You can't chase a bad problem with bad money. Most of the time, I think we probably all agree in this room that whenever we've come across a problem that couldn't be solved, it was because there was personalities that were competing against each other. Two very distinctive ideas that they just, they didn't know how to get along. And that's where a leader comes in, like the mayor, the person that's kind of the head of the council, the headship of the family per se, and they can come in and kind of help steer that.
Mike Lepine.
Building relationships of trust. One of the advantages of being an executive officer at a first responder agency is you get wonderful opportunities of leadership training. Recently, I got to attend one, which totally makes it easier for me to explain this. Everybody, there's a variety of different people have different kinds of attitudes and how they interact, how they speak. Some people have no problems jumping out in front and being exciting, and some people are kind of, they would rather answer the questions last, or some people are more data driven. And sitting in city council, I can watch the councilors, how they address a certain issue or problems that come up and how they talk. And I can already tell you which ones are the D-ish kind of people, which ones are the more C kind of people. And I know that's probably Greek right now, but D are usually your stronger, more domineering. And I already know who they are because they're one of them sitting right here tonight. But the staff is very much like that. So if you can identify those people and identify how their behaviors are, then it's easy to pull together and meet the needs of those people when you talk, and then be able to pull together 100% on tackling the problem rather than just 80%.
Austin Troop.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is making myself available and showing up for everything and just letting others know that I'm there to listen to them and work through these issues together. That's the biggest part, A lot of the time when I would reach out to others in the city or the county, I just wouldn't get an answer back. And that makes no sense. How are we going to get anywhere if we're not talking to one another, if we're not actually speaking about what we need to get done? We won't. So being there, listening, and actually working to listen to others and work through their problems is going to be a big step in working together with everyone. And so it's a cohesive thing. It needs to be approached from all sides. I can't just put the best effort forward, and if everyone else ignores me, expect to get much done. I need to be able to work with them, and they need to be able to work with me. So we'll figure that out.
Bill Atherton.
Thank you. Austin, so I see they treated you shabbily as well, huh? So I understand. But how to work in a most productive manner. I've functioned at the federal, state, regional, local level, and spent most of my time in my earlier years with scientists and engineers. And we often had a difficult time dealing with political people because we dealt with facts and debate and challenge and review and test. And this annoyed the devil out of them. But after a while, they came to appreciate it. And although we annoyed quite a few people, we delighted many and came up with some fabulous solutions to critical issues. And I would think that, I know whenever, the one place that I had the most success and enjoyment was at the Lake Oswego City Council. We had Republicans, we had Democrats. I was always independent because it was a nonpartisan position. But we always had these fact-filled, enjoyable conversations, and the public appreciated it. We got a lot done.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Any rebuttal or further comments? Finally got down to you, Mike. Thank you. We've discussed that already, so give me another one. So this is letter H. This is from your community. Would you support or oppose a process in Madras that allows voters to choose between pro-growth or growth-neutral policy? And Travis.
You know, you start talking with a question like that, you kind of have to figure out first whether or not this is something that the council needs to deal with, the council, you know, being representative of the constituents, or if this is something that needs to go out to a ballot. As far as my opinion on pro-growth versus growth-neutral policy, I am a pro-growth guy. You have to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying. That's true in business, and it's true in city as well. You know, we've seen lots of little towns around our state over the years, beautiful little towns along the coast that were brilliant, vibrant, you know, wonderful communities right up until the point that lumber left, and they stopped growing. And now they're virtually nothing. And, you know, so definitely pro-growth. You have to grow. It's managing that growth. It's preparing for the growth. From a city standpoint, you know, that would be, you know, making sure that the infrastructure and things like that, that you're trying to think ahead of what the next thing is going to be, and you know, just preparing for that accordingly.
Mike Lapine.
That's kind of a weird question for me, because the way I look at it, it's going to happen regardless. Growth is already happening. Redmond has been overtaken by people who can't afford to live in Bend, and now people can't afford to live in Bend or Redmond, so they're coming here. Our neighbor is retired from Bend and come over here because he can't afford that. It's happening. It's going to come here. And as Travis said, I think it needs to be done strategically. We're going to control it. You know, if you go to Bend, the way I look, and I'm sure I'm not totally accurate, but I look at Bend, and there's a lot of people that have, and a lot of people who don't. There's very few that people right in the middle. So we need to make sure that as we do go here, we're watching out for everybody here. So there's a place for everybody here.
Austin.
Yeah, I think it's important to listen to the voters and what they want. Obviously, if they put this forward and they decide on that, I'm going to work with them to try and accomplish that. I think it's as simple as that I'm going to go with what the voters and what the people of Madras want and not try to push it on to them. Thank you.
Bill.
All right, thank you. It's been a while since I've heard the comment that you have to grow or die. And that's, pundits have commented that that's the mantra of only one organism on this planet, and that's the cancer cell. And my, alluded to in the beginning about our boyhood home of Fishkill, that's animated everything I've done in public life for the last 50 years. But people know when they've hit that sweet spot. Not too little, not too many, just right. The trick is how to find that. And I have ordinance written. It's been reviewed by land use attorneys, vetted by them, that I can present to the people of Madras and to the city council. It's ready for debate, ready for analysis, and provides for a visioning process and a vote of the people on whether they want to be pro-growth, which is right now they're taking your tax money and forcing you to subsidize growth. The other option is to have growth pay its own way, to be growth neutral. And right now, the cities do not do that. I have materials out there in front I could share with you on the amount of that.
Brad,
I'm not sure we actually get a choice in this. I'm not a land use planner, and I don't pretend to be one, but as my understanding of Oregon law is that we're required to have space to grow. And it would be very difficult, I think, to close that spigot and stop growth. I think that the way Oregon law is set up, it is pro-growth, and a local option on that, I'm not sure we get to do that. We can have policies that may slow it some, but I think we are going to grow. And I think the city's doing a very good job of capturing some of those expenses of growth with system development charges and ensuring that development is paying some of their own way. And I think we're going to grow. I'm not sure we get a choice.
well, thank you. Any rebuttal or further conversations? Bill, you have 30 seconds.
In 1995, I was actually asked over in Portland to a large assemblage of people who were concerned about growth over there, what to do about it. And I had to point out that it was the urban growth boundary process was your best tool. The problem is it's been corrupted, and it was corrupted by the Home Builders Association of Portland and Building Industry Association. They put in a bill in that session, House Bill 2709, and I can give you more about it. I have a resolution right here to deal with it.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up as close as we can to 7:45. We certainly appreciate your time for coming out. This does get a little hard on the tush a little bit, but this is important for our community to know who our candidates are. So I'm going to ask, or I'll have 2 more questions, and then we'll go to the wrap-up. So Austin, could you pull it? So have you been in an administrative position before? Mention a challenge that you faced and how you managed it. And this is number 5. And this is from your community. So it'd be Mike Lapine.
It's my turn. Yes. Oh my. Yeah, I spent 5 years as the chief of Jefferson County EMS district, and oh my gosh, how many different problems that I had to face. The very first problem was actually getting us financially secured, because as I said before, we had to take money out of savings in order to make payroll. So immediately we went to crisis mode. We stopped all the spending, frivolous spending. We kind of held on to checks before we let them go out and to pay bills, which was noticed quickly by our vendors. But that only lasted for about two months. Then after we did some research, find out how we can improve our billing, improve our report writing and whatnot, improve our relationships with our receiving hospitals, that quickly turned around. And by the time the merge came along, we were about $1.5 million in the black. The biggest challenge after that was, after following my board of directors and maintaining our autonomy, the merge came. And that was probably the biggest challenge, was what to do with the merge come. Well, I'm now the deputy chief of EMS of our agency, so I think that went okay.
Okay, Austin.
Yeah, I've experienced in the past even working on my own business with a business partner of mine, and that was for a web comic. We had a lot of merchandise that we sold online, and at one point we had found ourselves with a bunch of T-shirts that we needed to get shipped out, and I didn't have the money aside to even ship them all out. So one night I just decided to hunker down and make labels for all of them and ship out 400 of them the next day. That was just an example of my initiative in getting things done with the resources that I have. And over the years, I've done things like work as a communication director in a campaign during 2020, and it was always a challenge to try and get the candidate to communicate in a way that's effective with the voters, and that led us to win the primary in 2020. So I was very proud of that, and that my work had resonated with over, I want to say it was 20,000 voters at the time. I was very proud of that. Thank you.
Bill?
Actually, I've only been in one administrative position, and I was a kitchen inspector when I was in college, which is pretty wild because we stopped an epidemic there. But most of my roles in government have been in the policy side of things, and there it was focused on providing clear, consistent, enforceable direction in policy that administrators would have no difficulty or little in interpreting and carrying out. I can't think of an exact issue right now on that, but that's always been my focus, is mostly on the policy side of things.
Thank you. Brad?
I would say that throughout my career as an administrator, the most wicked challenges, if you were generally people. And those personnel issues that can hurt relationships in the organization with outside the organization, and finding ways forward with those people issues is sometimes the most difficult. Because they are the longest impact. The financial stuff, you can deal with. It's numbers, it's manipulable. It's something that you can find solutions for. The human solution sometimes is the most challenging, and you have to follow the law and you have to do what's right.
Thank you. Travis?
Yeah, as far as my experience with administrative positions, I've done it both in the I guess kind of more public role, actually managing a business, being the figurehead of that business. I mentioned that before, as a store manager, in charge of, what did I have, about 20 employees, maybe 18, something like that, managing lots and lots and lots of types of personalities for all different kinds of the jobs in there. I also am a small business owner, so I mean, when you start talking about the ultimate administrator, I have to answer to every part of that. Luckily I have a good accountant, so I don't have to deal with that part of it. But yeah, I mean, as far as challenges, I think Brad probably said it. We've mentioned it a couple dozen times between the panel tonight. It's a people business, right? So every type of administrative position is going to have its own unique challenges, and I bet you that at least 90% of them are all going to be people in relationships. So.
Okay, any further comment or rebuttal? Okay, so this is the last question. Bill, I'll ask you to pull one. There's only 2 questions left in there, so pull one of them out. So we've discussed social media in regards to negative comments. So let's see what this last question is. Okay, so many jurisdictions include a summary of employee cost for each position, including salary and benefits. Would you support a summary that makes it easier for the general public to fully know the cost of a position if elected? And we will start with Austin. Sure. Many jurisdictions include a summary of employee costs for each position, including salary and benefits. Would you support a summary that makes it easier for the general public to fully know the cost of a position if elected?
Yes, absolutely. I believe in transparency, and I believe the citizens being informed is a good thing. And I would be happy to make that information available to them if I could, and if I could direct others to work on that as well. So, yeah, absolutely.
Bill?
I think there's a website on the internet, and I'm just trying to remember the site here. It'll come to me. But they actually list every government job in the United States and what the salary and benefits are for every single one. And they used to do that here in Jefferson County in the paper. Used to have that publicized. Yeah, that would be I just can't remember what the name of that. Oh, yes, it's called openthebooks.com. And it's pretty sobering to take a look at that.
Thank you. Brad?
I would absolutely support this because if I'm not mistaken, the city already does this as part of their budgeting process. It is transparent, it is published, and it is in a very readable format.
Travis?
Yeah, like Brad was saying, I don't think we get any choice in this matter. City employees, everything's a matter of public record, right? I mean, the information's already there. Not ever having looked at any type of chart myself, per the question, I think that, I'd probably be in favor. I mean, if you're just asking the question simply, I would be in favor of making it in a format that is easier for, the lay or the public person that maybe doesn't have the inside baseball knowledge about what's going on that sheet. But, I mean, it's all a matter of public record anyway, so I think the question's kind of moot.
Mike Lapine?
Ditto. I mean, we're a public employee, so yeah, our budget goes out and it's on our website, so you can see exactly what we make. So,
Great. Okay, before we go to the final comments by each one of the candidates, they have 3 minutes. I'd like to remind everyone that the Chamber of Commerce is carrying a forum for the City of Culver, mayor's position as well as a council position. That's going to be Wednesday night at 5:30 meet and greet, 6 o'clock for the forum to start, and it will be in the City Council chambers in Culver. And then also on Thursday night, the Jefferson County Commission forum, and that is being held Thursday night at 5:30 meet and greet, 6 o'clock to start the forum, and we encourage you to be there, which will be at the Jefferson County Community Center. I'd like to thank Central Oregon Connect as well as Central Oregon Daily for being here. We really appreciate your time and assisting us in getting information out to our citizens. And also to our Performing Arts Center Director, Shannon Ahern. She's back there in that dark window. She was down here at 3:30 getting things squared away, and the reason we have this place is because we have good people running it. So let's go ahead and start our final comments and wrap up. And I believe it's going to be Bill Atherton. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, during this evening, this has been a very difficult situation for me, but I very much enjoyed being able to have a conversation with these gentlemen. The traffic, the growth, the transparency, those were the 3 things that the people talked with me about the most. They had many other interesting ideas about improving the community in Madras. I just say one of them was to have community gardens, another one to have a flea market set like every Saturday in the community. We've talked about the issue of the traffic and the truck traffic going through the middle of the town. I know it's been on the books. To have a bypass around. Many people were very supportive of that. I know that there are business owners down on the main drag that some of them are be real concerned about that. They love to have the high traffic counts, but it comes at a significant price to the citizens that they're trying to serve. And I think we need to have a conversation about that. But the biggest issue that, and the most troublesome one, was how to deal with the population growth. And on that, I've had experience at many levels for many different years. And I have resolutions prepared that I'm prepared to take right to League of Oregon Cities, to their issue committee, to bring it before the membership, to argue to the legislature to get these laws changed. And what was really frustrating in talking to people was that they didn't know anything about this. They didn't know that the urban growth boundary was no longer an urban growth boundary. It's constantly moving. They're being forced to accommodate this growth, population growth forecast in a huge organization that's set up to do this. They were unaware that they were being forced by the legislature to subsidize new development, primarily residential development. I have materials out there after the meeting here that I'd be happy to talk with you and show people the numbers that have been, that economists have put forth on this. And it's very sobering. But growth does not pay its own way, and it can cause tremendous detriment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Brad Johnston.
Well, I started tonight talking about relationships and managing growth, and I think we've echoed that more than once tonight, and it seems to have become kind of a theme. I do want to say thank you to the Chamber for hosting this. This is a fantastic opportunity for our citizens to get to know the five of us, and I have to say, what a wonderful opportunity to have five candidates for mayor. To have choice in a democracy is kind of a foundational thing, and I'm very happy for that. I want to say thank you to the council members that are here, taking your time out tonight to come get to know us just a little bit more, and just comment on what a beautiful facility we have here in Madras and how proud we should be that as a community we can support a facility like this. It's pretty amazing. I talk to my students about democracy all the time. And I'm asking you for a vote. And I can't imagine asking you for something more personal. It's an amazing thing. And I am asking you for it tonight. I believe I'm a well-qualified candidate that's here in your community with the best of intentions for this community. I see great things for this community. I am not the candidate for change. I don't think we're doing a bad job. I think we're doing a pretty good job, and that we can continue that work and even take it to the next level. And I think we're going to have to, if the growth predictions are anywhere near accurate, we're going to need our A game. And we're going to need to work with staff. We're going to need to work with other governmental agencies, and we're never going to be able to do it ourselves. Earlier, we talked about those partners that are with us in economic development. We have to lean on our partnerships. We have to lean on our relationships, and we have to be moving in a direction where we are all pulling the oars together and not in kind of a haphazard fashion. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for coming out. I can't imagine a better use of your time from a very selfish perspective. And I hope that you do find your candidate. I hope it's me, but I hope you find your candidate and do vote.
Thank you. Travis Montgomery.
Yeah, so Brad pretty well put the hammer on the nail. He kind of stole a little bit of my thunder there. Wish I could have been a little further down the line, but we're up here, you know, we're putting ourselves literally in the spotlight in front of y'all, asking for you to trust us. That's something that's very hard to do. It's a very personal decision for each and every one of you, and for each and every one of you have very different reasons why you choose candidate A over candidate B. And luckily for us, in a city race like this, it's nonpartisan, so we get to avoid all of that trap. And I think that's very wise, because again, what are we all doing in the world? What does everything come back to? A people business. It's all about relationships. Something that I think about a lot is the word legacy. What are we doing now, and what is it going to leave behind? That's a huge thing, and it's a big privilege to get that opportunity to get your vote, so we can hopefully leave behind something better. Like Brad said, I think the city largely is doing a great job. There's a lot of things that are just fantastic, and I just think it's time for the next generation, the next younger guy, to come in, and that has critical thinking skills, which is something that I think we've lost a little bit in this society. And somebody that lives by an ethic. So one of the things I try to kind of live my life by, run my business by, is kind of these 4F things. And I know you're thinking that's probably going to turn dirty, but no, what it comes down to is faith, family, freedom, and financial responsibility. Those are the 4Fs. And I think that if I can earn your vote, those are the types of things that I will bring into this office, into the city, and into the relationships that then hopefully I get to impact, and the decisions that I get to be a part of with this city. And so faith to me is very, very important, and so is freedom. So I'm a small government guy. Government needs to stay the heck out of it as much as possible. But largely, I just hope that I've provided enough to you tonight to help win your vote.
Thank you. Mike Lapine.
These are really interesting times that we're in right now. I don't think Madras has ever had 5 candidates running for mayor before, and that's spectacular. I've been telling people, bring in a bucket of chicken and a 6-pack, it should be a good time. But when we're talking about how the city's managing things, and even the county, we're still living in the fallout of COVID. So many things have happened, just how the government, the federal government, even our state government, have managed things. Whether it be right or wrong, we're dealing with the repercussions of all that. And so when we talk about how the city has been managing things, think about the stress that had to overcome, and how they had to do that. We're seeing shortfalls in EMS and fire and police and hospitals and all these other stores as we're trying to overcome the Great Resignation. And yet we're trying to promise you to do the best things that we can do. I've been a servant all my adult life. I have served many of you in this county personally in your times of need. This is a personal choice, so let me continue to serve you in this capacity.
Thank you. Austin?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity tonight. It's been good. And, listening to the questions and what the other answers are, it reminds me that going forward after the pandemic and after all this craziness of the 2020 stuff, we've just got to keep moving forward. And we got to keep putting our best foot forward and helping each other and not giving up on one another. When we give up, when those barriers break down, that's when we've lost it all. And as long as we're still there for one another and we're still pushing through, as long as we're listening, that's the biggest thing. When we don't listen, when we close people out, you're showing your true colors. And so a vote for me means voting for people to have their say, for the vote to matter, for people to matter, and for Madras to matter. Thank you.
So the last thank you for the evening is to our 5 candidates for stepping up. Takes a little bit of time, a lot of tenacity, kind of expose yourself a little bit more than you'd prefer, but it's important, and someone's mentioned it a couple of times. This is the first time that I know of we've had 5 candidates available for any position within most local entities here in Jefferson County. Thank you very much for doing what you're trying to attain. Unfortunately, we can only pick one of you, and but we hope you all step up, because there's always room for budget committee. There's always room for task force, and we can utilize your resources as well as your experience and your past horsepower to make things happen. So with that, thank you very much to the audience. Good night.